Before we get into what you guys are working on, because so it sounds to me like the whole protocol owned liquidity game theory that is behind and makes sure that people are incentivized to stabilize the system and also provide liquidity to make sure that there's no severe crash or anything. What would happen if, for example, a lot of people simultaneously withdraw liquidity, sell their own, or unbond or unstake, right? If you have kind of like a bank run, what would happen in that case? Is that any danger? Because I think there must be some sort of scenario where this whole thing could collapse, or is it entirely bulletproof?
Nothing's entirely bulletproof, but I think Matt would be best to answer it because he was the one who brought up the 3-3, how 2-2 and 1-1 worked. So Matt, before I answer, do you think you want to take a stab at this?
Sure, thanks. So so I've gone through like lots of calculations and like how or what would happen if like this protocol would actually break, or like if people start panic selling and like it goes like to like close to $1, right? So right now, OHM or like any other assets are like way above $1, right? And then we're always like scared. Hey, it's supposed to be like backed by $1. Is it okay for it to be like this high? So it depends on the situation, but but according to my calculations, it can be okay, but only if you stake until the end. So like even if I bought like, I don't know, OHM at like $1,000, even if I stake until the very end, I would still get profit if OHM drops to $1. Yeah. Or Cosmo, that you want to add?
Yeah, and what's important is, right, OHM has only existed for 7 months, guys. Take that back, right? Like Uniswap has existed for like 2 years. What is it? Osmosis launched 7 months ago. These are still very baby products. And because it's very baby products, and really they released this mechanism to see if it worked. And now what they're doing is generating utility OHM. So OHM is being used. There's reason to keep it staked. There's reason to use it. And now because they're generating utility for it, people no longer will be like, oh, I want to sell it for this reason. If they would want to sell it, there's multiple things that might happen. They might need to pull off of a position that they did to get some type of stablecoin. They might need to pull out of something that they did in order to get specific access to another protocol. So now what OHM is doing with V2 is really building utility for that asset. And now as you build utility for that asset, there's a bigger reason for holding it, right? If there's utility that span for a lot of different reasons, there's a lot more alignment on keeping it despite there being some type of market difference because you're getting utility for that reason. And that's what they're branching out on. Sorry, I wanted to touch on a second aspect that you mentioned too, Matt, after your calculations. I hope that aligned.
One question I have regarding that, is there any constraints that I have when I bond or when I stake? Like, is there, for example, a hard lock that I have to like, you know, decide, or I have to basically agree that my coins are locked for a certain period? Is there any kind of like lockup that comes with it? Or is it just like, okay, can I unbond anytime and I have it liquid, I can sell right away? Or how does that work?
Do you mind if I take this one, Matt, in Ironman?
Sure. Go ahead.
So, sounds good. It's highly dependent per protocol. So we can look at, I'd love to talk about what Nova DAO is doing, and we're still finding out these details on our end, but I'll talk about like V1 OHM because we're still talking about OHM, right? Which is in V1 OHM, when you bond, you receive OHM after a 5-day period, right? So it vests over that 5 days. So day 1, you get 0.2. Day 2, you get 0.4. Day 3, you get 0.6. And in any portion of that day, you can claim the amount of OHM that has been attributed to you. So if you want to claim your OHM in 3 days, well, then you get that 0.6 OHM as a result. So when you do bonding, you're able to claim that vesting amount at any given time period. Similar with staking. When you stake, you might need to wait maybe an additional few hours, but once you stake, you can technically unstake. But each protocol is defining different parameters based off the different utility that they want to provide to that ecosystem, right? So let's say they say, well, a lot of people in this ecosystem just want bonds very quickly. So instead of doing this vesting thing, we'll let them do an instant bond. So they're able to get OHM very quickly by dropping some USDC at a very low discount. Or maybe some protocols are taking the situation where, well, nobody's able to claim the OHM until 5 days later. So each protocol is taking a different approach based off the circumstances that they're in. I hope that